What do you think about our local 9, the Astros? Are we worried? No, we're not worried. No. Okay. We're the better, right? Okay. Well, I'm just wondering before we actually get kicked off, just kind of get a vibe in the room. We did lose 5-0 yesterday with our AAA squad that Dusty put out there in Sam's. It sure seemed that way. But it's all right. But hey, I'm thinking maybe the Astros faced a future teammate, Shane Bieber. Maybe. Just maybe. That guy is available. So maybe the Astros might make big. Move there. All right. So before we get started, we haven't met since April. So we've had a few guests, and actually a few people signed up. So in May, we had Jim Fritz of Cypress, Texas. Jim, are you here? No. In June, we had, I'm going to destroy this last name. I'm just going to say Nick. Okay. Nick is from Lexington. Is Nick here? Okay. Rianne is actually a SABR member, but she wanted to get all my emails. If you don't know Rianne, she is the wife of Gilbert Martinez, the president of the Roger Hornsby chapter, the Phil's Gilbert chapter. Okay, so welcome, Rianne. Robert Matthews. Is Robert here? Robert emailed me, or Chip. Yeah, he emailed me. His membership had expired. He's like, Joe, what do I do? I said, you just do this. And he signed back up. So he's back. And Jared Salinas from Beaumont. And John Walsh from Spring. John. Yeah. Okay.
One thing.
Yeah.
We lost our guy from the lot.
We lost our guy from Latvia.
So we're not as international as we used to be.
We're not as international.
We're half as international as we used to be.
Yeah.
Canadian, actually.
We need to get on the ball there.
Europe, though, has been lost.
Okay, so we'll work on that. So besides that, we have a big crowd today. We have some guests here, and we're going to start by mentioning Nicole Bryan. Is the mother of our speaker. It's right. Brian Hall, your dad. Bailey, I'll introduce you in a minute. Okay. And the CEO of Hilton Hotels now. David Hilton is there. Big baseball fan. Grew up in New York, is that right?
New York City.
Grew up in New York City, but he's an Astros fan. Right. So he was a Yankees fan, but he looked out his window and he saw Shea Stadium, right? Right. So okay. Okay, and then we have I'm sorry, what's Alita. Okay. And Alita and Lily. Alita and Lily, your guest of Lucha. Always. Welcome everybody to the kind of midsummer classic version of our chapter meetings. All right, last month, well, in April, we had Justin McKinney talk about 19th century baseball. He was an author of Baseball's Union Association, Short Strange Life of a 19th Century Major League. It's very interesting talk for those of you who's very SABR heavy that night, which was okay because I think that it was the same night as an Astros Blue Jays game, but we won't ever do that anymore for the home games anyway. But I guess we got lucky because during the meeting, I think you told me they scored like 7 runs in the first inning or something. Something like that. So, but it was a very interesting talk in April. Of May, we didn't have a meeting. We went to the Space Cowboys game. We did have a meeting. We did? Well, okay. You're right. See, right. And you know what? I do apologize. If you don't know who I am, I'm Joe Thompson. Okay. Mike was not here to keep me in line, or he didn't say anything. He just assumed. And our speaker in May was, what was his name? Garrett? He's the voice of Space Cowboys. Right. What's his name? It's Garrett. Yeah, Garrett. He talked about his time in the Brewers organization, calling games for the Brewers organization. Yeah, it's interesting. The Lexi Shuckers. But we had 50 people show up. Wow, 50. That's just the amount probably here in this room, and not soon more so. So that was a great, great get together. Altuve was there for us, just for us. You know, we had a rain delay too, so we had a little bit of everything. I sat down with Bill Brown and talked about Forrest Whitley for a little while, and Brownie gave me some pretty good insight as to his thoughts on Forrest Whitley. And sure enough, one of the things he was talking about, ironically, came true not that long ago. He's down again, ain't he? Yeah. So, which is kind of too bad for Forrest, because he could have been that sixth guy. Instead, it was Ronel Blanco. So, I don't know if Whitley will ever make it to the major leagues. I mean, Dierker, do you know much about Forrest Whitley? Do you think he'll ever make it to the big leagues? Dirk? No? You think Forrest Whitley will ever make it to the big leagues? Probably. Okay. Maybe for a spot start.
Oh, we got to have 3 or 4 guys enter this game, and I first have to be able to pour.
Yeah. Okay.
And they struggle back and forth. 10 days here, and yeah, he'll probably.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take Dirk's word for it. Yeah, he'll get a shot eventually.
Yeah, but will he, be an impact player? Probably not.
Right. Okay. Well, I pray for the kid. I hope everything works out for him. Anyway, so next month is SABR 51 in Chicago. And how many people from here are going? I'm going.
Oh, we're pointing for. Look at gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
My wife is going. My daughter-in-law is going. My grandson's going. So we might have a pretty good contingent. I know Maxwell is a chapter member here, but he lives in Toronto. He's going to go. We're all going to meet up Thursday night, I think, at Harry Carey's restaurant in Chicago. So that should be pretty fun. So we'll come back in August and give you maybe a little brief report. All right. So, but speaking of August, our chapter meeting, we will have Hugo Majica, the Houston Astros Foundation. Okay, he will be our speaker. Thanks to Lou. Where are you, Lou? Lou. Thank you, Lou. So it may be Paula Harris. Maybe Paula Harris.
She's there right now.
Well, she's there. Maybe Paula will be there. The executive director.
Wow, yeah.
With the Astros Foundation. I invited. Maybe she'll come. All right. We'll see. Along with Hugo. So, Paula, if you're there, hello. Nice to see you.
Just wanted to listen in while I do the work. So, great so far.
Thank you. In September, that meeting in August is August 28th. Remember, the Astros like to play on Mondays this season. Seems like every Monday. Okay. So the meeting is August the 28th. All right. So we have to do some shuffling because they're not going to be at home that night. And then in September, I just got the confirmation of this about 2-3 hours ago. Jay Verrill, the Astros Vice President of Business Strategy and Analytics, will be our speaker. He is very excited. He's very honored to be here. Thanks again to Lou, or as Jay said, thank you, Uncle Lou. Okay, so Jason Verrill will be here. It's 25th. Yeah. So business strategy and analytics. So, all right. Very quickly before we get started tonight, I asked Lucha a couple months ago to put our new logo. How long we've had this logo, Bob? couple years, this new logo. Put it on some shirts, all right, and see if people wanted to buy some shirts. And so she went off and got some samples, and she's brought back some samples to show everybody. These are available for sale.
Yes.
Okay. So if any of you are interested in buying a shirt with the chapter logo on it, see Lucha at the end. Does anyone help me hold it?
I can hang them up there when I'm done. I don't think they're all hang them, but so we got a t-shirt, a cotton, 100% cotton t-shirt, and a dry fit polo as the choices. Okay. And this can get really as complicated as you'd like it to be, as I've learned about the t-shirt making process. This first one here is just the big logo on the front. Okay. $25.
It's like Saber 44.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's actually what it's doing.
But we can also do small logo on the front, big one on the back, and have it double sided.
It's different colors.
Now,
besides orange.
yes, you can have a whatever color t-shirt you want, really. Okay, so that's the other option. There's lots of options here. And then the polo, this is basically the same shirt here. Dry fit polo, small logo on the front. Okay.
So it's orange, then blue,
Yes, blue, yeah. This is 2X3, you know, whatever size.
and then white.
Now, well, we had a couple of trial and errors. If anybody's interested for half price.
The blue has our logo.
Yeah, it does. This is the bag. So that's just extra side note there. But anyway, yeah. So t-shirt, front, back, or just the front, and then dry fit, which is going to be just a small one on it. You wanted anything else special? We could probably do that too. Up to 3X. Yeah, and both about t-shirt or dry fit.
Is it a minimum, which we have choices?
No, actually, and that's probably what made it a little complicated too, but basically, she has a website, but if you go through me, we can eliminate any shipping and handling. I'll just bring them to the next meeting. Okay, and I brought sign-up sheets, and it just occurred to me right now, I didn't put on here color. So if you would like to order one, just fill it out. I can Zelle, Venmo, whatever you want to do, cash check.
Or do you?
No, I'll just bring them to the next meeting. Yeah, or, you know, whenever. My phone number's on here on the bottom. Don't have any questions or need something.
Well, if you're out of town, we can probably push it out.
Or, yeah, we could mail them.
Well, you can.
We can mail them too, yeah.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay, nice.
So if you want a shirt, see, yeah, see, look, all right. Wait. Okay, our next newsletter is coming out the first week of August. Is that right, Tony?
Late July.
Late July, early August, and I have some ideas of what my president message is going to be. But I have to keep that in myself. If you haven't seen the spring newsletter or any of the newsletters going all the way back to whenever we started this, 2020, you could find them on our website, saberhouston.org. Find them if you're a Saber member. If you're a Saber member, you can find them on Saber's website. So got a lot of good articles. Any ideas of what you want to see, Tony? For this upcoming one? For this upcoming newsletter? Would you like to?
I was talking to my friend listeners about club that move around. We were talking about the KCA, Philadelphia, KCA, Golden State, and guys have to think that they're going to Las Vegas.
The Las Vegas A's.
That can't happen. They got you. But it Vegas, Vegas. I think Vegas, what's your Miles history of franchise?
Okay.
A lot of going on.
But you know, that's a natural. Because that lost your race in Las Vegas.
Besides that, if you have any personal memories of baseball, anything you want to write about with baseball, please send it to Tony.
Yeah.
Okay?
I will turn
anything.
it off to go.
Yes, you will. Very quickly, and I'm only mentioning this. I heard Todd Callis and Jeff Blum talk the other day during that Friday night game that all of us had to endure. That 15 inning or 14 inning game where nobody really wanted to win. And they were talking about ever since the MLB implemented these new rules, the Ghost Runner in 2020, the Astros haven't really been good in the extra innings. And so it kind of motivated me to say, well, hold on, let me see if there's any credence to that. So I spent a little time this afternoon doing that. And true enough, since 2020, the Astros are 16-25 in extra inning games. They have scored 177 runs, and the opposite, and the other team has scored 198. So maybe there is a little something to that. Now, I decided, as all good researchers probably should do, to look at the 5 years before that rule. And so I went 2019 down to 2015. And 2015 to 2019, the Astros record in the extra innings was 37-28. They scored 325 runs, and the other team scored 275. So, of course, 2019, the Astros were 10-4 in extra inning games. So, I don't know. Maybe there is something to that. I don't know. What do y'all think? The Astros cannot play very well in the. Is there anything to what Jeff Blum says? The Astros just can't perform in the extra innings lately. Is there anything to that? Y'all think? What is it about the extra innings and the Ghost Runner?
Are they doing away with that rule next year? That runner.
It's permanent. It's permanent rules. And I just was thinking about it while the game was going on. So we're not a fan of it, the Ghost Runner?
No.
It's great.
Well, it's a good. Bob's a fan. Don't like to watch 14 inning games, even though we got one.
After that, Cam and Eddie got talked, I found my award for attending the longest 23 inning game that's played. And I actually like the,
You like the 23 inning game?
no, I like the runner on second.
If you like to it's gonna go home, right?
But the whole society is morphed differently, because back when I grew up, when Dirk was pitching and stuff, I used to love seeing a 1-0 great pitch ball game. Nowadays they want 9-8, and they want all these runners moving, and I said, it's not the same. They don't appreciate a well pitched, well defense game. They want tons of offense, and so that's what it does. It produces offense. But is the purpose?
Beyond that,
Beyond
that, I think, yes, in keeping with societal trends, we don't want to have a guy start a game and have to come out of the bullpen 2 days later, like Roger Clemens did in the playoff.
Yeah.
We want everybody to be protected and everyone to be nice. So it's part of the way the culture is going.
But I used to like with Bob Gibson, when they come out in the 8th inning, Gibson would yell, turn around and go back to the dugout. The man's pitch.
Oh, wow.
Yes, Tony.
I should add though, that the rule changes in place this year, speeding up the game, have been all the university law. Attention is up, change the quicker. I get it. Bad, we're not, look. There is no share.
There is no share.
There's no share.
They did away with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, I don't-
nothing game was over before I even tuned in. Turn it on.
Yes.
Ready to turn it on and go.
See. We're shifting.
You took it with, where's your coach now?
Well, I was just wondering. Okay. Moving on. Dana Brown says we need extra back, maybe an arm. So I don't know. Do we really need an extra back?
Yeah.
You're not happy with Jose Abreu? He got 2 home runs this weekend.
So we're coming back.
He's like, are we going to get a healthy Michael Brantley back?
Yeah, that's
a fact.
yeah.
So I wrote down some names that were mentioned, left-handed bats: Seth Brown, Kevin Biggio, Lamonte Wade Jr. of the Giants, and Zach McKinstry of the Tigers.
History's the one that makes the most sense off of that list.
Yeah.
Because he's verted in all the positions. He's like sort of like the God. He can play everywhere. Most of those other guys.
Better let Dana Brown know. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
I think they can get him a Guriel there.
Yuli Gurriel? Well, let me ask this. Would you rather have Yuli or Lourdes?
Lourdes.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
gave him a few years.
Right. Now pitching, I kind of had fun with this because the names that came up were Dylan Cease, Lucas Giolito, Shane Bieber, who we saw yesterday, Eduardo Rodriguez. Any of those names sound good?
Arch Cleveland,
That's just
Funny.
Jared,
There's also one other name that could be available that I thought this crowd would really love. Joe Kelly. Yeah, not Joe Kelly. Yeah, the Chicago White Sox. What? You wouldn't welcome Joe Kelly with open arms? Okay. All right.
I think Dirk's got a few innings left in it.
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't be worried. And by the way, I did one other little thing. I also looked at who's coming up in the farm, and we know about Drew Gilbert, right? That guy from Tennessee. Jacob Melton of the Taurus, Colin Barber of the Hooks. These are people that are coming down the line. But have you heard of this kid, Kenny Gomez? 18-year-old. He is in his second season with the club. And 11 FCL at bats. He was batting .364, 1 home run. MLB.com said the Astros invested heavily in Cuban prospects on the 2022 international market, including signing Gomez for $775,000. He hit .294, with 10 steals, 37 games. He displays ball-to-ball skills plus speed and solid defense in center field. He's 18 years old. And they're saying that he could possibly called up, projected for 2027. What does he play? Outfielders. Yeah. So keep that name in mind. Kenny Gomez. Rookie ball. All right. From Cuba. Okay. So we're keeping that connection going.
How do you get out?
Huh? I don't know. I'll leave that to the lawyers.
Getting any candy?
And one more thing, and then I'll shut up because I want to get to our speaker. One of the things that you get at the SABR convention every year is a copy of this, the national pastime. And if you don't get a hardcover copy of it, you can get a copy of it. There's some archives online at sabr.org. And this is the one that we had for our convention, 2014. And this year, anybody ever heard of the name William Ashley, Billy Sunday? You ever heard of that guy? He played from 1883 to 1890. He played for the White Stockings, Pittsburgh Alleghenies, and Philadelphia Phillies.
He was a drunk.
Well, but his baseball career is not what people remember him for. All right. At the age of 27, he left baseball, decided to move on and commit to a higher calling. He's widely considered the most influential American evangelist during the first 2 decades of the 20th century. It's a very interesting guy, very interesting story. And you can read about his story in this upcoming edition of the National Pastime for the Chicago Convention. Why do I think it's a very interesting story? Because I wrote the article. And if you go to Chicago Convention, you can read the article that I wrote. It was something I dabbled around with in grad school. And Cecilia Tan, who's the editor, decided, you know what, Joe? Yeah, this sounds pretty good. And I also talked a little bit about Josh Hamilton. Now, how do I compare Josh Hamilton to Billy Sunday? You need to read the article. All right. So without further ado, let me introduce our guest speaker. Our guest speaker is one of the new breed of SABR scholars. Yes, she has a Chicago Cubs shirt on, but that's okay. Bailey was a sophomore in high school this last year. High school, not college. High school. Okay. She wrote this little bio herself. So okay. She grew up loving baseball. She's a huge Cubs fan. She's become very passionate about the game. And she's a member of the Roger Hornsby chapter. And she recently started working the RoundRock Express. What do you do for the RoundRock Express?
I'm part of the event staff for the RoundRock Express, so it's not too glamorous, but I get to watch baseball every day, so I think that's a great summer job.
Okay. So Bailey, she gave a presentation at the winter meeting, which is why everybody should go to the winter meeting every year, because you'll see presentations like this. She gave a great presentation about analytics in baseball, and it may not be just exactly what you're thinking. She may have a little twist and surprise, a few surprises in there for you. So without further ado, I will let Bailey come up here and give her talk. Everybody, Bailey.
Whenever you're ready. Yeah. Good.
All right. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. My name is Bailey Hall. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'm super excited to share with everyone my talk about the history of statistics in baseball and how I've seen them change the game. So, a wise man once told me, one of my fellow SABR members from Austin, that those who don't concern themselves with the events previous to their birth will never experience the true feeling of baseball. And I was told that I fit in with the chapter in Austin because I care about its history and thus its hated. So I take this as the highest of praise, of course, but I was always wondering, why is it now considered baseball's prime? Why, in a day and age of technology, speed, and publicity, is now not considered the height of baseball? Especially for sports so encompassed with numbers and statistics and science. So I think that a perfect quote that sums this up for me is a quote by Henry Chadwick, a New York Times sports columnist from the mid-1800s. And he says that Americans do not care to waddle over a sleep-inspiring game all through the heat of a June or July day. What they do want to do, they want to do with courage. In baseball, all is lightning. Every action is as swift as a seabird's flight. Now, this was said in 1887. That's about how long ago that was. And I don't think anyone would say that now. So I think, why was it calling the game swift? I've never heard anyone talk about the game this way. And I talk about baseball a lot. My family has surrounded me with everything about baseball. Books, memorabilia, players, everything. All about the great American pastime. And I had never heard anyone describe it this way. So at this point, baseball is practically running in my blood, as I'm sure it is for most of y'all as well. But every time I'm around people my age who don't concern themselves with baseball greats of the past, they tell me that the game is slow and it's boring and it's confusing and that they are never going to watch it, which pains me to hear. But thanks, so I'm sure I'm not going to get that reaction when I'm talking about baseball, but with this crowd especially. But I would like to include one thing that was told to me by a member of the Red Sox grounds crew. He said that baseball was merely an antiquated and traditional sport that wasn't with the times. That's a direct quote. And I was shocked when he told me that because he works for the Red Sox. So I was like, why are you saying that you love the sport so much to dedicate your career to it? So at this point, I had always just accepted that baseball was old and that none of my friends were going to watch it with me, merely because of what other people had told me. But I had never really dug into the topic myself. So after much time for reflection, I just still never understood this line of thinking. The line of thinking that told people that baseball was antiquated. A sport with such analytic nuances and calculated moves is more popular now than ever. And with more and more technology available to aid the advancement of the human ability to play and watch and understand baseball, you would think it would be the craze of my generation. So what I've come to discover is the answer to the question of why baseball is seemingly antiquated is and has always been in the numbers. And before any baseball purists come for me and say that the numbers have ruined the game, they haven't always. Statistics have always been an integral part of baseball since the beginning. And this, when I started to really research the history of statistics, is what told me that the true issue has always been within the numbers, staring at all of us in the face the entire time. So let's take a step back and actually talk about the history of it all. The man I previously mentioned, Henry Chadwick, started the first ever box scores column in the New York Times beginning in the 1860s. He included statistics like total bases and unearned runs, which eventually led him to coin the term base hit, which obviously is still pretty relevant today. And so soon after, people from all over the country were listening and watching for his box scores in the newspaper, which created a community around this newfangled sport and the numbers of the game. Soon after that, readers would write into Chadwick explaining why they thought a certain way to look at the numbers was different or useful. And most importantly, a man named H.A. Dobson eventually wrote into Chadwick. And he explained the flaws of only counting base hits because of the obvious favorable nature towards leadoff hitters. So eventually he created the new statistic, batting average. Baseball statistics in particular had created something to talk about for people on their way to work or school the next day. It created a way for people to continue the game from the night before until the next game happened. It was a way to just tide over interest, I guess. And the numbers were very important at this time, but they were important for the conversations happening after the game. The newspaper and the box scores had formed another thing for people to connect around, and thus began the rise of baseball. So a couple decades later, in 1912, John Hedler, the National League president, found a discrepancy in counting runs per game because starting pitchers were throwing fewer and fewer innings. Thus, ERA emerges. Not more than 5 years later, Baseball Magazine's F. Selene, perhaps the first true sabermetrician in my opinion, introduced the term slugging percentage. And obviously, slugging percentage is a very important development, but more importantly here is that an entire magazine was dedicated all to statistics and numbers of the game. And this demonstrated how in almost 50 years, all ages and all classes could enjoy the game, even if they were nowhere near the field. So this community around the statistical aspect of the game became so popular that by the 40s, a former major leaguer named Ethan Allen created the All-Star Game to put guys completely based on numbers, not team loyalties at all, in a game to end all games. And the numbers were so enthralling and beginning to overshadow the game itself that it was the most incredible thing to see a Yankee star pitcher throwing to a Hall of Fame Red Sox catcher just because it was two statistical anomalies, not because of any team loyalties whatsoever. So then in 1947, Branch Rickey hired the first ever major league paid statisticians, Alan Roth and Travis Hope, and they created on-base percentage and batting average of runners in scoring position. Then about 2 decades later, Baseball Encyclopedia came out, which not long before I'm sure would have seemed frivolous and pointless to have. But in 1969, the New York Times was quoted by saying, "It's the book I would take with me to prison," which I found hilarious. So now, not only was there a whole community around baseball and its numbers, but it was America's pride and joy. It was a captivating game and it was a fast game, not because of the actual nature of the game, but because of its statistics and how they were numbers of the future. The new and improving technology, while it would always be disapproved upon by some, was a dazzling move towards the times to come. And even by the 90s, Stats Inc. had a federal court case where the NBA argued that statistics should be copyrighted and only professional sports associations should be able to use the statistics in lifetime. Clearly, Stats Inc. won the court case because players and teams' stats are practically scattered everywhere during a game. And what can be drawn from this is that statistics were making so much money and bringing so many people together that professional sports associations were trying to capitalize off of the exclusivity of them because nobody wanted to watch a game anymore unless the stats were paired with it. So a shift began to happen. And obviously now people realize that statistics were needed to watch a game. And the NBA is not baseball, obviously, but with Moneyball and a shift towards that way of thinking, Major League Baseball was followed very closely behind. At this point, the statistics had become just as, if not even more important than the game itself. So I think now would be a good time to add another event to the timeline from the 90s, which is not as famous as Michael Lewis's Moneyball or Stats Inc. case, but is very important to me because it's about my family. So it's about how the perspective and the idea that a community around numbers has affected people on a massive scale. So my mom, when she was in college in the 90s, worked for the St. Louis Cardinals, which is pretty cool, but as a Cubs fan, that does hurt me a little bit. And she did this to get an economics credit for her school, WashU, which I would say is a pretty reasonably well-respected institution. So to be able to get an entire credit for your class just by looking at the statistics, it's pretty cool. And she worked by hand, of course, because it was the 90s, to count every pitch, every contact, and every strikeout in a Cardinals game. She would sit in the press box next to the announcers and calculate everything right then and there for the announcers to use during the game. And I think this sounds like the coolest job ever. But of course, it was a dream for her as well, and the dream had to come to an end. So her summer ended with her writing a paper about her experiences there. So I think what's most important, and what I took from this, is that she had to do everything herself, right then and there with a pencil and paper, which is practically foreign to me going to school now because I rarely use a pencil and paper. But I can imagine that this would have felt pretty, of the future at the time. And I think what struck me is that the numbers couldn't have been produced as quickly as they are now. So there was this odd combination of people wanting these numbers during the game in live time, but the technology hadn't quite caught up with that. So after looking at this in tandem with all the other stuff that I had researched, it had kind of created a trifecta. The history, or the idea that the conversation after the game, or a summary of the game, was using these numbers and created a way for people to talk about the game, had led to statistics being used during the game and before the game. And somehow the speed, the increase in the rate of numbers that people were using had created this game that people thought was more boring and slow now. And also within all this, the community around baseball had grown massively over the years to then be knocked down to a point where there's fewer baseball fans than there have been in a while. And at this point, I was more confused than ever because my research had not answered any questions. You would think that with today's speed and output rates, this would cause a growth in the camaraderie around statistics and numbers. And that would lead you to think that baseball's height would be now. But as we all know, that's not the case. According to baseballreference.com, since 2008, MLB viewership has declined over 10 million annual viewers. And again, a lot of people, especially the ones that I talked to, tell me that this is because it's a slower and less interesting game. But how is this possible? How is the game boring and slow with all the statistics at the touch of a fingertip? So while I am a sucker for statistics, I'm also a realist, and I have come to learn that unfortunately, I think statistics have been completely abused. Why is the game slow? Well, pitchers are switching every third batter because they can only throw 100 miles per hour for one inning. Or they just are having an off night and there's no need to keep them in. And this allows for the next guy to be warming up the bullpen, an ad break to happen, and more people to change the channel. As for the interest factor of the game, no one's afraid to strike out anymore, and they only want to hit runs. So I understand why people call it boring and slow now, but shouldn't we be able to use the numbers to change that? So in 2015, when all 30 stadiums installed the StatCast system, the teams were then able to calculate launch angles, and thus arose the launch angle theory. So a perfectly squared up baseball results in a line drive. What year was it? Yes, what year? In 2015. There were teams that had it before that, I believe, but all of them were required to have it in. So perfectly squared up baseball results in a line drive, and line drives have the highest chance of resulting in a hit of 3 kinds: ground ball, line drive, or fly ball. but they rarely result in a home run. But using the new launch angle theory, if you can hit a ball, like you want to hit a home run, which now coaches can teach players how to do, won't that always statistically have a better outcome than trying to hit a line drive? Well, I think if we only look at the statistics, it will tell you that yes, a home run is always going to be better statistically. But here's the issue. The players are in fact human, and you can't hit the ball 400 feet every time you make contact. And when you swing like you want to hit the ball 400 feet, you often don't make contact at all, which I'm sure we have all seen. And this has made the game much less interesting to watch, at least in my opinion. But the fear with the alternative, choking up after the second strike and hitting a nice single, is that the fielding in the majors in tandem with the previous shift allowance makes the odds of a ground ball getting past low. In the wise words of Bill Doran, a ground ball with eyes really just never happens anymore. So if your options are between a line drive and possibly a ground out, or a home run and possibly a strikeout, it makes complete and total sense that people are trying to swing for the fences, because purely for run production, that is the best outcome. But which is better for spectator enjoyment? Which is better for facilitating conversation and action within the game? It's the same idea as lowering the mount in '68. It wasn't like the game was unfair or unequal before, but it's just that it simply allows for more action for the fans, which is, to me, the most important part of baseball. So here's the main problem that I see. The numbers are everywhere and at a touch of a finger these days. And baseball has been a game played in tandem with the statistics. And that's what makes it such a nuanced, intellectual, and intriguing game. But now there's no tandem at all. The stats completely run the game. There's no separation, and there's nothing that an experienced player or person can bring to the game. Everyone knows what the statistical best outcome is, but as we all know, the theoretical outcome is not the same thing as what's going to happen in the real world. So for example, if a pitcher only has one out left in an inning and his momentum is growing, but the guy who's up to bat next is known for hitting off his type of pitching, that's obviously a judgment call, but the answer is not always going to be to pull the pitcher like the statistics will tell you. And if the team has the bases loaded and the batter is up in the bottom of the ninth inning with no outs, obviously statistics will tell you that a home run is better, but you really don't need a home run in that case. You don't need one at all. A line drive would make you a hero. That's all you need. So is it statistically better to hit a home run? Yes, but should you always listen to the statistics? In short, statistics have created a community and a conversation that lets people marvel over phenomena that happen once in a blue moon. But that is what statistics should be. What statistics should not be is the sole purpose to make a tactical decision. It doesn't dictate the game for you. What it is not is the reason to do something without taking your head out of the numbers to truly assess the situation at hand. What I love about this game is that there's always some unturned stone to discover. What about this batter against this pitcher? What if the pitcher's only pitching his fastball, or there's runners on? There's millions of possibilities. It's endless, basically. But the difference is that when I look at statistics, I use them to inform decisions for the future. I don't look at the statistics to make the decisions for me. So, yeah. I again go back to the wise man who once told me that I was better off looking at the past rather than just the present and the future. And what I take from this, what I think he meant, was to look how far the numbers have come. What was once one single person penciling in strikes and balls for college credit is now a highly digitized and dynamic mass of every number you could rely on, or you could imagine. The problem's not the numbers, it's the analysis and the laziness to rely solely on them. So I think to myself that if we could only use the numbers to think of the possibilities, to discover the new nuances that baseball has to offer and argue over small chances of things happening, and use it that way instead of a means to an end and something to do a job for us, it would be the most alluring and attractive pastime of our day, as it once very much was. So what I think has been lost in baseball is that people think of it merely as a sport or as a business. What everyone is forgetting is that baseball truly is a pastime. I love the raw talent and athleticism that players demonstrate, but that isn't all there is to it. What is just as important about baseball is the fans and the camaraderie and the community and the Society for American Baseball Research. So I think that everything else that comes out of the game is just as, if not more important. If we use statistics to run the game, we're losing all the rest of what makes baseball great. It's lost its spirit. So what I mean when I say that it's lost its spirit, I think it's demonstrated best through my summer job working at the RoundRock Express, the AAA team for the Texas Rangers. And I was shocked by what I saw there. For the past couple of seasons, some days only 3,000 or 4,000 fans are coming out to the stadium. And I was shocked by this. When I talked to some of my coworkers who've been there since the opening of the stadium, they tell stories of Wednesday night randomly in August, when, as we all know, it's very hot, with sold out crowds, sold out stands. And the games just don't draw those kind of crowds as they used to. And I blame this completely on the way that statistics have been abused. No one wants to watch a game with 8 different pitchers, no stolen bases, maybe 4 guys on base, and no excitement at all. So, not only for the business side of things, but for the team's outcome, this is a huge issue. No home crowd makes it a whole lot more difficult to win games. For example, teams like the Chicago Cubs, which have an almost sold out stadium every game, have only had 11 seasons in the last 100 years where their away record was better than their home record. And this isn't a surprise. I'm sure no one is shocked by this, because everyone knows that playing in the friendly confines of Wrigley Field is a pretty good gig for a player, because you have the whole neighborhood and the whole city sometimes on your side. On the contrary, teams like the Guardians, whose stadium have the 6th lowest annual attendance, have either equal or worse home records than away records for the last 100 years. My mother, who has been an Astros fan all her life, and I'm sure many of us have as well, talks about how when she was a kid in the 80s, the Astrodome was often empty. And now, as I'm sure we all know, the stadium is packed and the tickets are very expensive. And shockingly, now they're winning too. So I don't know if the fans caused the team to start winning or the winning team made the fans start coming out to the stadium. But either way, what this suggests is that fans are and have always been one of the most important aspects of a team's success. And with viewership declines for all teams, it can't be good for the business of baseball or for the sport itself. So the way the statistics are driving the game have driven fans away from the ballpark. So luckily, this story doesn't end here in catastrophe, because finally this year, the baseball gods have listened and the people in charge are doing something to fix the trouble. Major League Baseball, as I'm sure we all know, has implemented some changes. And I've seen a couple articles that are negative about this, but I think we can all agree it's been a pretty positive experience. The new rules have brought intuition and mind games and the importance of a player's experience back into the game. So let's start with the shift. I can't be the only one who hated the shift. All the years I watched baseball, I hated it. And what made me so mad about it is watching the players pull the little card out of their back pocket and just mindlessly moving wherever they were supposed to go on the field without thinking about it, without really knowing what they were supposed to be doing. With the new rule abolishing the shift, requiring 2 infielders on either side of second base, it makes the game more equal. It makes the game competitive again, and it makes people want to hit inside the field again. The new rule was enacted because the average batting average across the majors for the past seasons were the lowest they have ever been, averaging at 243 for the past 3 seasons. Most experts have accredited this decline in batting average to the particularly low single count per season, averaging at 5 singles per team per game in the past 3 seasons. And this is because people couldn't hit soft dribbler through the infield anymore because of the shift. And now the possibilities have opened back up again because they can do that now. And the need for athleticism and intuition increases. Along with the shift, we also have the infamous pitch clock. I'm sure we all know the premise of this rule, so I won't bore you with the details. But to reaffirm my beliefs, I love the pitch clock. As many pitchers and batters alike have commented, the pitch clock not only speeds up the game for prospective viewers, but it also allows for more trickery, for more mind games. As Max Scherzer once explained, the pitch clock allows him to psych out batters. One pitch, he'll wait for the last second to start the windup, giving the batter enough time to get his head and screw up his routine. Next time, within the first 2 seconds, he's ripping a fastball. And I think that has put a lot more nuance and interest back into the game. Mental strength is back to being just as important as physical strength, which in much of baseball history was half the battle to begin with. So lastly, I want to touch on the pickoff rule. Pitchers are only allowed to disengage with the mound once per at-bat. And in previous seasons, I'm sure we have all witnessed the seemingly endless battle between the pitcher and the guy on first base where they throw 5 times, nothing happens, and it just wastes 10 minutes. So the only thing that happens from that is more time was wasted, and now no one wants to steal bases. And a stolen base, as we all know, is a truly sacred thing in baseball, and it is so fun to watch. It's almost biblical, in my opinion. And to take such an exciting and complex and meaningful aspect out of the game like that, I thought it was terrible. So with the new pickoff rule, I'm beginning to see the life comes back into baseball. It seems that we're finally heading towards the end of a very long tunnel of baseball run solely on statistics, rather than the human mind and intuition. And we're going to be back to the heyday of our wonderful, intellectual, and perfect game of baseball. So I again go back to the quote that started the whole story. Americans do not care to dawdle over a sleep-inspiring game all through the heat of a June or July day. What they do want to do, they want to do in a hurry. In baseball, all is lightning. Every action is as swift as a seabird's flight. Henry Chadwick. I hope that these new rules can continue to restore the true nature of baseball, and that one day soon we will all get to experience the lightning that he was talking about. I have grown up around this sport, and I love it more than most things on this earth, but I have never been inspired by the game the way that I am now. Watching a game is truly an experience that I have never felt until this season. Until recently, my life's experience with baseball has been nostalgic. Longing for something that I've never experienced, something that my parents and my grandparents were talking about, but I couldn't live to see. I wanted to live in a time where statistics created a community around baseball rather than deterring it away. I wanted to experience what Chadwick and Dobson and Lane were talking about all those years ago. Not just a sport, but a pastime. A game of instinct and talent and numbers, and above all else, the community. While we have not fully restored baseball to its true beauty, what I do know is that I have had more conversations about the game and about its statistics, like I imagined my grandfather doing as a kid growing up in Houston watching the games, than I ever have before. We have begun to put statistics back in their rightful place in tandem with the game, rather than running it, fostering excitement and debate, and the day after a game for the fans and for the community. I hope that this is the beginning of a wonderful new era of statistics where baseball is more clever, more inspiring, and more truly beautiful than it ever has before. Thank you.
Questions?
Super, presentation.
Questions for Bailey?
See what goes together.
Jerry got signed before.
Do I got a scholarship for Bailey? Maybe even between here and the Rogers Hornsby chaps, it's probably where she'll find it. Tony, you had a question?
Oh, yes.
How about the averages, batting averages going down during these long, slow climb? Winter largest event, but it's pretty low in the American League this year. I don't know how many 300 hitters there are, but I think the number of hitters, they maybe 290. It's naturally like healthy or something.
I don't know why the American League has lower batting averages than the National League, but the average I know has improved, which is enough for me to have hope for the future, I guess I would say. Yeah.
Bailey, I have a question for you. One of the things that people talked about in here is the return of the stolen base
Yes.
and the larger bases also.
Yes.
In fact, every year we do a contest about the Astros wins, and one of the one of the tiebreakers is how many steals Kyle Tucker may have and this year. And true enough, steals are up, right?
Yeah.
And we get characters out of this, right? People stealing bases, and then we have people like Ellie De La Cruz of the Cincinnati Reds. I don't know if you heard him, who has declared himself the fastest man in the world. I don't know if you saw that. He just saw that. It came out on Facebook. I think he said it yesterday. He is exciting. He is getting people excited about stolen bases. So what do you think about? You can't steal first. That's right. So do you think we will have enough? Do you think we will ever have a 100 stolen base season again?
I hope so.
The Ricky Henderson and Vince Coleman. Do you think we'll ever get back to that?
I think at this point, not yet, but I think what's important is that this is clearly just the very beginning. Like, I think the fact that people in charge are actually recognizing what we've been talking about for so long means that it's possible eventually to get back to that place. That's my hope. I don't know if that will happen now or soon, but I think it's definitely possible that it would happen again, right? Hopefully. Yeah.
You think it'll happen, John?
Yeah. Yeah.
You think it'll be this Ellie De La Cruz guy?
You're not out. Hopefully.
The guy out, oh yeah, the other guy, I don't know. What's his name?
Yuri.
Yuri, yeah. Possible.
Ruiz.
Yeah, Ruiz in the eighth, okay. Anybody else?
I got it. I'm the old budget here, but I think careful, because what I say here. First of all, on the shift. If they put a shift in, problem you got is you don't have hitters on the front, you got swingers. They're playing and grooving swings, but they're not hitters. You shift Ted Williams, you shift Tony Gwynn, those guys will beat you to death. Because they can put the ball wherever they need. There's a kid in Miami right now hitting 400, does exactly the same thing. But when they take the shift out, they are taking out, they said, on average, 34% better chance of an out in a shift. So they're trying to speed up the game by taking the ability to get outs, more outs. So they're going to increase the number of hits. They're going to widen or shorten the base path by widening the bases to create more base traffic on there. How are you speeding? How are you slowing the game down at that point? So it is, it's creating the action, and that's what everybody wants, the action. It's not the pinpoint precision and all that. I mean, I used to love to watch Greg Maddox. A guy would start on the black, and by the end of the game, he's getting tall 6 inches outside the zone. That's because they respected it. He was throwing exactly where he wanted it.
Yeah. I think I agree with what you're saying. I think the action is more important than the actual time of the game. But the amount of people who told me the opposite, that they just don't want to be sitting in the stadium for that long, I think is also important, which is why I think also doing the pitch clock at the same time as doing all this stuff kind of accomplishes both. So the action is back, but the games, I think, are approximating about 30 minutes shorter than they were before this season. So I agree with you in terms of the other rules could theoretically make the game longer, but by doing it all together, I think they've accomplished everything that they wanted to, you know?
I think Williams tried to get the ball over the ship.
Yeah, it didn't go the other way. It's hard.
He was left field, trying to drill the ball.
I was still trying to figure out if Brad had it.
It's above your head.
I think my problem is, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but I think the problem is we have too many lawyers in New York because they're running it.
Whoa.
I mean, I'd say that, I think the pacing is more like.
Yes.
But because they're forcing them to do it with the clocks. Every time we change the rules of baseball, we try to get closer to football. Baseball is not football. We should try to stay baseball. They should let the umpires do it. Instead of having a clock, they should say the umpire, get in the box, no, okay, strike two. Pitch, okay, ball four. And let the guys that spend their lives on the field, but the lawyers in New York. I think, this is just speculation, think that the umpires are a bunch of blue collar lunkheads, and that they can't have judgment or really know to control things on the field. And I'm not a big fan of umpires at all. At all. But I think they would do better than a clock.
That's a good point. I have no arguments there. That's, yeah.
That's a criminal.
True. Yeah, that's true.
You know, getting to the point where they may not even know.
That's a scary thought.
Well, it's only the home plate, it's only the home plate pitch strikes. I don't think they're gonna take the umps out of the field, but yeah, it takes away the human.
That guy yesterday, did anybody watch the game yesterday? The pitcher for the Indians, not the Guardians, the pitcher for the Indians, voted Indians by the fans
Right.
of the Naps.
Right.
The pitcher found the zone and played the umpire, and the umpire, he pitched a masterful game. The Naps were dead, and it was a long, hard trip and all that, but
that's what you do, isn't it? I mean, I sat on the hill just like you did. I mean, if they're gonna give me this pitch all day long and they ain't gonna give me this one, then I'm a fool. Keep throwing this one, I'm gonna take this one. And Fever did it. Well.
Anyone else?
Good.
Got it.
Okay, so we have become way too overly reliant on our phones, whereas 15 years ago, you go to a gym for 4 hours, not have to worry about your struggles, whereas now we have 30 minutes after you sit down. I mean, maybe even 10 of that, like 3 minutes after you sit down. You're on your phone, looking up in the middle, so like so. And which we, our Legends fans have gone way down. We have the Legends fans of
That's true.
so probably have next, all the way to left people. Probably don't make it. He's got run road for 30 years. Oh, yeah, every day. Carrying forward all the time, and the lawyers just.
Carrying forward to what he said, with the cell phones single-handedly put nets up around the basin.
Were you not listening?
My lives, and the lawyers had it written on the back of those tickets, that they're not responsible, but they realize it's not a contract unless you read that beforehand. That's why they always give them all the movies, do all that stuff, and then they say, let's get too crazy. And nobody's watching, and you watch, look at a field, they're minutes.
I can't argue with that, Chris.
It is a big deal. It is a big deal. Working at the Express, the foul balls, the process that you have to go through to make sure everyone has to check in their section to be sure that no one got hurt, all this stuff. You wouldn't think that it gets a lot closer than you would think way more often. Like people are not paying attention a lot more than you would think, because probably at least once a game, there's a scare. Someone might not have gotten hit, but like people had to go check, they had to call medical, like something was close to happening. So I completely agree with you on the phones thing. I don't know why you go to a baseball game to stay on your phone all the time.
We're
But,
looking up the stats.
oh,
Anyone else, on Zoom, or, go ahead.
More of a comment that of the rule changes, I think I'd be like to pitch clock the best of all the others, because there's this speed of the game, except for one thing, I keep score. And by the time I mark my buzzer and pitched again, I'm going.
Keep up, her. Anyone on Zoom? Got a question?
It's gonna be a long time.
All right, Lou, go ahead.
Before, you talking about bringing interest back to the game. Well, does that mean putting more people in front of the TV, or does that mean putting people in the seats in the stadium? Probably both, but it's gonna be a while before statistically we know. Because what really puts seats in the people in the seats is a good team. we have a good team in Houston. We have some cities whose teams are getting better, like the Texas Rangers. They're very competitive this year. The Astros are in a fight. But there's some teams like Oakland, of course, which is the worst of the worst. And there's a few other teams that really, because of all this change in the rules, put standings in the seats. We'll see.
Well, I would argue that the Cubs universally do pretty terribly overall. And they draw pretty well to their stadium.
The Dodgers are just like Boston.
True,
Sure.
but I think the point is that other aspects of baseball are also important, not just game. Stadium or like, I don't know if y'all like the Savannah Bananas or something crazy like that. There's other parts of baseball that can draw fans other than just having a good team. Obviously, that helps, but I think it's important to pay attention to the other details because that can draw fans even if your team isn't good, you know?
That's why they made bobbleheads.
There's a bobblehead night at the RoundRock Express on June 22nd, if anyone wants to come. Anyway, yes.
I have a comment and a question for you. What was about the Nets? First time they put them up in minutes, we had a SABR outing and we went up, sat around third base, the upper deck. I was sitting next to Wes. And they hit a foul ball up there and 3 seats to our right hit a lady on the head. And she was just not paying any attention. It's talking to her friends, so that's,
Yeah.
she wasn't even on her phone, but it was funny. Cause it's the Nets. But the comment, the next rule change they're considering or have been considering, that says back in Larry's day, you could throw overnight if it was fast. But there weren't a lot of pitchers that could. There were maybe 1 or 2 were stat. So Houston had a lot. No 100 is rare. Now every staff has 3 or 4 100-mile-an-hour pitchers. They're talking about moving the mound back, maybe a foot or more. They haven't focused the distance. I think
That's what they keep doing. They change the
1898.
measurements, they change the technical definitions of things. They don't think about what it's like on the field.
I mean, we got some altitudes and people, but better part. Most of the really good players were big, like Ruth. All the players they should be big now. It's in the line. So do you think you're?
Yeah, I think
So what's your opinion on moving the mound back?
I think that I don't know how much further you can push the human body to play baseball. Like I think eventually there will come a point where they can't make any more modifications because people just can't run faster than 108 or whatever miles an hour. So I don't think this change will be the end of baseball because I don't think more changes like that are going to continuously happen. Like eventually there's going to reach a point where pitchers just can't pitch any faster, you know? So moving the mound back 1 foot might seem wrong now, but in the long run, if it stays that way for 200 more years or whatever it is, I don't think that's a problem necessarily. I don't know, maybe that's.
Shifting forward a little bit. The biggest problems that you're seeing right now, because of the technology and the training that they're going in, they're getting these guys to where they're physically stronger than the joints of the bodies can handle. That's why you're seeing more torn knees, you're seeing more oblique injuries, you're seeing more ulnar collateral ligaments gone. And they're doing it because they're throwing more than what the body is capable of handling. At some point, they're gonna have to realize there are limitations.
Right, yeah, I agree. That's what I think, like, we're reaching the point where there's nothing more we can do to make people pitch faster. So I don't think.
I think that's a dance pitch.
Research, the picture of like, that poem was written,
Sorry, what?
when that poem was written, I wanted to do research on baseball fighting at that era. My understanding it was lots of bunting, lots of stolen bases. So talk about all this quick action. I don't think there's that dead ball era, right?
1887.
Yeah. It's falling apart. So a lot of line drives, a lot of side hits.
basically, that might have been why he was, that might have been kind of easy to describe it. We don't see bunching any longer.
Yeah.
It's very seldom anymore.
Yeah.
I was just gonna make a comment, with all the talk about the pitch clock and all that, I've heard some talk that pitchers might be infuriated fast because they rush the pitch so often, it's actually gonna hurt them. We don't know for another season, I think, but there could be some serious problem in pitcher's health.
Like Garcia and DeGrom, maybe?
Who knows?
I agree.
So it's just wondering for the future, are you gonna stay in statistics in baseball, or what are your plans or hopes?
If I could make a career out of baseball, I so would. So hopefully, but I have to like pass school and all that stuff, graduate, which is really frustrating. But after that, hopefully, yes, that is the goal eventually. Yeah.
Anybody else there? Got a question?
I have a question. I have a
For
question.
Bailey?
I have a question.
Carl, you got a question?
Yes, sir. Yeah, my question is, what was your sources and how long did it take you to put all this together and come up with your analysis of all this?
I have a whole document of all my sources. If I can share that, I don't know. It might be interesting. Some of the articles are actually pretty cool. I don't have them all off the top of my head right now, but I do have a whole document of it. And it took me a pretty long time, honestly, just to kind of come up with a thesis or a thought almost. I would say probably I spent like 6-ish months on this because I also gave a similar presentation for the winter meeting in January. So like throughout that and I started it last season before they implemented the new changes. So I think I wasn't actively researching the whole time, but it was important to see multiple seasons to be able to like think of the changes that I've
So maybe let me get this right. You were doing research on this just when you became a sophomore in high school. So
Yeah.
right after your
Yeah.
freshman year in high school.
Yes.
Which house bro? Yeah. Thank you, Dierker.
When did you start becoming a baseball fan? The year the Cubs won the World Series?
Yeah. Well, my mom really struggles. Her favorite team is the Astros. Her second favorite team is the Cubs, but she struggles to watch the Astros ever because she cares too much. So she gets too stressed watching them. So she would never watch the Astros when I was a kid. So we would only ever watch the Cubs because she didn't care enough to turn the game off. So
Score.
yeah, exactly. So I would say pretty much first, honestly. Yeah, my brother was in Little League, the whole, growing up around it. So yeah.
Thank you again, Bailey.
Good job.
People like Bailey are why I joined SABR, believe it or not. Because there's always somebody out there who's willing to look at the game in a very different way. You probably had a mindset about analytics when you walked in here today. And I would probably almost guarantee that at least most of you in here probably think a little bit different about analytics after Bailey's presentation. So that's what I love about SABR. That's what I love about baseball. And, with sophomores in high school, juniors in high school, I think SABR and baseball is the same for a long time. All right. Chris has a presentation about somebody in this room that involves somebody in this room. This person's looking around like who? So, Chris, take it away.
Let me get this, see if I can get this set up.
Nice.
There's no better. Okay, so just set this up a little bit. There's several years ago, I found this website called the Miley Collection. And this guy had gathered a bunch of audio recordings of old baseball games. So this one is from 1976 is the Astros radio broadcast. It's the Larry Dierker no-hitter. I'm only in the 9th inning. There was a homer in the 7th inning. If you remember, I didn't. So it should be the 9th inning, and at the end, there's a Dierker has an interview. They caught him in the stands one game, so he kind of told what's going on. So it's going to be radio at the first, and then a little video at the end.
About 6 minutes?
About 6 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, we're going into the 9th inning now. Tonight's attendance 14,380, 14380. Dierker will be facing Manguel to get the 9th inning underway. Larry Dierker has never pitched a no-hitter in the big leagues. He came close once in 1969 against the Atlanta Braves. At Atlanta, he pitched 8 2/3 innings of no-hit ball before the first Brave got a hit in that one. That's the closest he's come. That's getting pretty close. And then he lost that ball game eventually. Went into extra innings. Here's Manguel. He's been up 3 times, struck out once.
Well, I know one thing. He's not going to lose this ball game. He might lose the no-hitter. He won't lose the ball game.
Here's the pitch, and Manguel takes a strike.
Low pass is set up with Bobby Green down below. If he throws it, we'll be talking to him, and then you and I can work our way down there through the pandemonium. And let's get the no-hitter first.
All right, Dierker's still got 3 outs to go here. We're in the top of the 9th inning. 1 strike on Pepe Manguel. Strike 2 called. Pepe took a good slider up around the letters on the outside corner. 0-2 count on Manguel. There's not been a no-hitter in the Astrodome since 1967 when Don Wilson no-hitted the Atlanta Braves. Ended that game by striking out Henry Aaron. 0-2. Pitch to Manguel. Up a little bit, 1 ball, 2 strikes. The last no-hitter pitched by Houston pitcher was by Don Wilson at Crosley Field in Cincinnati in 1969. There have been 4 such games pitched in Houston history. Still nobody out here in the 9th inning. 1-2 pitch, Manguel. He's got him, struck him out, 1 away. Manguel goes down swinging. That's 1.
I think we can say here safely, Gene, a lot of people sometimes are critical of announcers that announce no-hitters. There have been those who felt they should not. But I know you join me in saying that after all, the fans here know it, the ball players know it, and the fans listening in and the people that sponsor the games are entitled to know that everybody is throwing a no-hitter.
Well, Larry's got 2 to go. Lytle has been up 3 times tonight. Here's the pitch to Lytle high and outside. It was Lytle who hit the ground ball that Bob mentioned last inning. The toughest play in the ball game so far defensively. A great play made by Rob Andrews in the 4th inning to throw Lytle out at first base. 1 out, nobody on. Dierker has now gone 8 1/3 innings. The left-handed batter Lytle takes it high outside. 2 balls, no strikes. 2-0. We'll give you a chance to get a station break in here in just a second. Ball 2, no strikes. They're pulling Lytle, the lefty hitter, a bit off the right side. Dierker's 2-0 pitch to him is a called strike. Outside corner letters, 2-1. Batting next will be Mike Jorgensen. Lytle and Jorgensen have been the 3 toughest outs for Dierker tonight on 3 defensive plays that we were talking about a few moments ago. Here's the 2-1 pitch, Lytle. Got him swinging, strike 2. Fastball up a little bit, 2 balls, 2 strikes on Jim Lytle.
The FCC regulations say that you do not have to interrupt anything which is important to get a station break in, and I'd have to say right now this is one of those times.
All right, Dierker checks over sign again with Ed Herman. He has a 2-ball, 2-strike count on Lytle. He has just struck out Pepe Manguel. The pitch to Lytle. Got him. Struck him out. 2 away. Dierker needs Mike Jorgensen. 2 outs, nobody on.
Don't think he doesn't know he doesn't have it. If he didn't, he'd have to be totally stupid. The fans here are going absolutely berserk. Go get him, Larry, and go get him, Gino.
All right, here's Jorgensen, always a tough out, a left-handed batter. Flied out twice, grounded out tonight. Dierker's windup, pitch to Jorgensen. Ground ball, Watson's got it, it's all over. And Dierker has the no-hitter.
Look at him go wild. They're gonna kill him down there, Gene. absolutely mobbing him down there. They won't let him get off the field. His own teammates are pummeling him half to death. I have seen now in broadcast 7 no-hitters are a part of it. This is a great thrill here to be one. And Gino, who described that play magnificently, has some more facts. And a little later on, when we get settled down, we'll be going right down into the locker room, and we'll be talking with him. Dierker is now being pulled over and is coming through with the umpires, and a standing ovation, Gene.
Absolutely tremendous. I never saw a happier man in my life. Dierker got over by first base when Bull crossed the bag with that ball all by himself, and the unassisted put out jumped up and down. He is absolutely out of his mind.
I had a couple of no-hitters in the 9th inning earlier in my career, and I really thought I might pitch a no-hitter any time because I could be overpowering. At that point, I was just trying to hang on and play as long as I could. I was throwing sidearm and my arm hurt. And about the 7th, maybe the 8th inning, I started getting an adrenaline kick. And even though I didn't have the same delivery, the ball was jumping out of my hands, and I was throwing it by people upstairs. And that's all I did. You know, I said, the last one I'd lost was an infield hit. So I said, it's going to be strikeout, fly ball, or home run. I'm not going to throw a ground ball anymore. And I became a power pitcher for 2 innings, and it worked.
And Jose Cruz playing in place of an injured Cesar Cedeno made a couple of nice plays for you in center field.
Cedeno made a nice play in right center field on a ball hit by Jerry Morales that might have gone out of some ballparks. Enos Cabell made a pretty good play coming in on a bare hand swinging bunt play from third base. There was nothing that was so extraordinary that, you know, it would be an over and over replay, but there were 3 really good plays.
So, do we have any questions for Chris?
Do you have any questions for Chris, or would you?
My only comment is, when they showed at the end, Ed Herman walking off, he looked like a catcher's supposed to look like. Shaw, you know, the big hair, it looked like he was tired, but he was excited. He's like, glad it was over.
Dirk, you want to?
Herman's nickname came with him from the White Sox. Hockey. He was one of those guys that was not in great physical shape from all of the modern ways of being in shape. He was just a catcher. And said if he could run enough, he was catcher. And it was, for me, I wish I could have pitched it to Johnny Edwards because he was the catcher I liked the most. But you don't get to choose those things. And he died young. He lived out in San Diego. Herman did. I don't know. It was, yeah, you're right. He was a catcher. He looked like a catcher. And when he came over to us, his nickname wasn't just about his physique, but also just about his maybe lifestyle. Probably, I think the first 2 homestanding that he never left the locker room. He just slept there.
You have a question for Dirk?
An observation. I see that night you threw 108 pitches.
Yeah.
Yeah. I only saw it yesterday. In a game between Stanford and Texas, the Stanford pitcher threw 156 pitches. Can you imagine that?
I can imagine it. I don't watch baseball as much as most of you. I probably don't like it as much as I used to. I think it's part of getting older, and it's part of our comments about the speech we heard. Is, you know, you go along with your own mindset in your own life, and it changes as you get older. And at 76, it's not the same as it was when I was 30. And it's not the way it was when I was in my 40s and broadcasting. It's not the same as it was when I was managing. It's evolved. I don't know if you all feel that. I think most of you have as much passion as you ever did, but I don't have as much passion as I have, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with the sport. It's just that my own personal outlook of what I choose to spend my time on.
Well, with so much emphasis on how they manage pitch counts today, of course, this is college ball, not the pros, but still. So allow that young man to throw 166 pitches seems just.
There was a guy that most of you remember named Sandy Koufax. And his profile was that his stuff was virtually unhittable, but he couldn't throw strikes. And when he started winning Cy Young awards and started becoming perhaps the greatest left-handed pitcher ever, at one point he said, I became a good pitcher when I tried to get the hitters to hit the ball instead of miss the ball. For me, when I watch games, it's like the pitchers are trying to make the hitters swing and miss. The idea is the best pitch in baseball, you walk out there, whatever inning it is, and you throw the first pitch of the inning and the guy hits it, takes him out. That's way better than striking him out. So pitching for contact is trying to throw pitches that have movement and location that the hitter can hit, but can't hit really good. And so they get themselves out. I think if I were to talk to pitchers these days, young pitchers, I would try to say, don't give these guys too much credit. You know, if you keep trying to make perfect pitches and you get behind 2-0, now you're going to have to try to throw a breaking ball behind the guy. You might walk them. If you throw the first pitch in there for a strike and they don't hit a home run, you know, you're on your way to getting the guy out. So that's why 108 strikeouts and 4 walks and 108 pitches. The first part of that game before I got that adrenaline kick, I was just trying to mix it up and move it around and get him to hit the ball, make it out.
Was, you know, that video showed with you that had a sidearm delivery.
I was way down here.
Yeah, what is
my elbow was down below my shoulder. I probably had 100 cortisone shots by that time.
Well, it was
how much Darbo.
A pitcher nowadays, if they saw a pitcher throw like
Well,
that.
they keep pulling them out of the game.
The
I probably would have left. I was done when I was 31. I could have lived just another 4 or 5 years if I would have pitched 6 innings every start.
Yeah. Cardinals, right? I remember the Cardinals out there. You could the same as Cardinals.
You were on the Cardinals 1 year at the end.
I went to the Cardinals the next year.
I went to the Cardinals. That was, these are things that, you know, I think are interesting to most of you all, but at that time I pitched a no-hitter and maybe won 1 or 2 more games. That was in July. And somewhere toward the end of August, I was throwing between starts Atlanta, just to make your starting pitcher will typically throw either on the second or third day and throw between starts to prepare for the next start. And I threw a pitch and my shoulder dislocated. And I didn't know what to do. I couldn't. And finally, you know, from just moving around it, and it went clump. It went back in, but I didn't miss the rest of it. And I think I had beaten the Cardinals 4 times, maybe 3 times that year. And so they were interested in trading for me. And the Astros were not interested in paying me because we finished about 40 games out. And they were going to have Bo Hoffman and Joe Sampito and Mark Lemongello and all those guys they were going to rebuild with. And so Bill Burton talked to me at Shirley's right there. I hope she's still awake. Bill talked to me and he said, well, we've been talking with Tal and I think we're going to have to rebuild next year. And so that means we're going to have to pitch our young pitchers, and I can't really guarantee that you'll have a spot in the rotation. I said, yeah. I understood. Well, I had more than 10 years in, and so I didn't have to agree to be traded. But I also didn't want to stay with a bad team that didn't want me. So I said, okay, I'll give you a list of places I'll go with. One of them was St. Louis. St. Louis always has had, or they still do, a reputation of being a great baseball city, and they were. Cardinals were so good to me, but my arm never came back. I pitched in a few games the next day, but that was it. Once it came out of joint, it was over. Yeah, I was here. And if you see some pictures, I have a picture at home of the first game of the Colt 45 on my 18th birthday, and I'm right here. I have a little bit of video, not much. They didn't video games back there.
What was the mindset that even though your arm was in, that you still wanted to pitch and felt you'd get major league hitters out?
It was really a bad mindset. It was something that I think was instilled at me when I came up when I was 18, 19, 20 in the veteran pitchers. The first year, my rookie year in 65, once I moved into the rotation about halfway through, I had a 100 pitch limit. And so I still remember one of the veteran pitchers saying to me, don't let them make you into a 7-inning pitcher.
Got a question?
So that was kind of, if I was going to be the top dog in the rotation and all that, I felt like I had to make my start. You know, I used to yell at my heart. I mean, no, you're not getting out of this. So wow, it's so different now.
So how's your golf game?
Greg, you had a question real fast?
Yeah, I got a comment, a question. First of all, thanks, Chris, for the memories. You know, hearing Gene Elston's voice is just like hearing a melody to me. I grew up listening to Gene Elston, and gosh, it was great to hear his voice. And I loved the fact that he was saying that Larry was pitching a no-hitter and not avoiding it like the folks do today on the TV, which drives me nuts. But anyway, thanks for that, Chris. And Larry, question, when you were throwing the no-hitter, did you feel like that you and Herman were on like more the same page than a different game? Or was it, do you have any memories of how you and him being on the same page or not was?
No, the only memory I have is just in general. In general, I felt like I hadn't been pitching that well, and I felt like maybe I was trying too hard to pitch to the radar gun, if you will, even though there wasn't a radar gun, but that I was trying to prove I could still throw hard. And I knew that it was more important to make good pitches, and so I remember having the thought before the game that I wasn't going to try to throw too hard. I was just going to make good pitches, have them hit the ball, and just try to pitch a good game. So then I remember getting that kick at the end and going back to just trying to throw as hard as I could. But I don't remember with Herman whether in that early part of the game, mixing up and moving around, whether we were on the same page or not. I really don't know. But one thing I'll say that is way different from what you're going to see any of the pitchers do these days is something for you older people going way back to Robin Roberts. But when he came over to us at the end of his career, he started doing this. He started, adding and subtracting. And so I said, what are you doing? I'd seen some of the other pitchers in the league doing it. And he said, well, if the catcher puts down one, and I want to throw a curveball, I just add one and it's two. But, he threw 1, 2, 3. 30 was a changeup. So if he gives me one and I want to throw 3, I can subtract by one of my legs. So I'll add on top and subtract on the bottom. So that really cut down a lot of time because we had to shake and then he'd try again, especially with guys on second. Cause you know, they give you 3 or 4 signs. And then if you shake, they gotta give you 3 or 4 more signs. If they give you 3 or 4 signs and you add one, and then you start to pitch, and it's 2017, the Dodgers have nothing to cry about. They don't have time. We don't have time. They don't have time. They couldn't steal your signs because you're changing them in the last minute. But that was an era when the pitcher decided what to throw, not the computer. But now I wouldn't be taking a card out of my pocket to try to decide what to throw. I'd be thinking about how do I feel? You know, you're supposed to throw a curve. This is something that happened with the Astros, I think. That a pitching coach got called on the carpet because a relief pitcher threw a 2-1 pitch and the guy hit a game-winning home run. He was a young guy and a hard thrower. And the next day they asked the pitching coach, why hadn't he thrown a curveball? Because that was in the lesson plan. I mean, that was in the game plan, 2-1 to this guy, throw a curveball. So he asked the pitching coach, and the pitching coach said, he doesn't have a curveball. This is the disconnect that sometimes can happen between the field and the front office and MLB.
Thanks, Larry.
Anyone else? Thank you, Derek. Okay, last but certainly not least, April's trivia contest genius winner here, Patrick Petty, has a contest for everybody. And I printed out 30, so you may have to work for teams. But we have a special gift for the winner. The special gift is the 1970, what is it?
79 team ball, and I counted at least 3 players' autographs on it to bring that starting lineup. Dierker's not here.
1979 signed team ball by the Astros. It's in my bag. Courtesy of Cal Smith. I will show you the ball. Patrick's going to pass out the trivia contest.
Yes.
How many? Here is the baseball right here. What else? Winner gets this baseball. Nice set.
Franklin Smith is.
Shirt from a give me some. Just show them my favorite item here again. Best one for me. We'll go ahead and start that.
I win this.
Yeah, I can show you.
Teaming with partner up. No, that decided it's your team. Ready for the team.
Again, next month, if you're leaving, we're not gonna have a meeting, but in August, the Astros and Action Conference.
I'll just let the people on. Yeah, just take one.
I'm just gonna run through the questions for that.
Yes. Just throw that.
Okay. All right, for those of you on Zoom, we'll go through the
Stand up there, I can put you on.
go through the questions quick on here in the room, just keep working on it, and then we'll go through the answers. So, so the theme this month is baseball players with June birthdays.
Your birthday, Patrick.
June 26th.
Yeah.
So now you do what? I'll go to all it up. It's great.
He's really large.
Joining us later.
Can we get in the guys?
Yeah.
It's really exciting.
Hey, right on that, just.
Let's join.
Yeah.
So let's get out. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Also, I get my favorites. Doing something, we should, right? Thank you. Good. Yeah, different meeting. It's a. Right, sure. Thank you. Thanks so much. I wish we could go out there and. Yeah, there you go. Not out. You come stop. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm still in the bathroom, I'm gonna freeze a minute and switch into something.
It's. Okay. It's correct. March out. That's it. Hey, yes, you're good. Yeah, okay, so that was the best. All right. Oh, no, hey. What do you want to say? What would pay? You say, I'm gonna eat hard and I want to. What's the third? Then here again, look right now. This is $6 for the Astros 12. Okay, so that's sort. Let's say.
28 by street.
Yeah.
But it's plain mixed.
You would. So you're actually, you can have. Sure. I'm still. Where you at? Yeah, it's safe everywhere. So you're getting your work. See you later. Like that is tough.
This the Patrick in the answers?
Yes.
Is he reading the questions or are you just?
I'm just every 30 seconds.
Every 30 seconds?
20 of them, so I want to get done.
All right, I know, it's getting late.
Number two is. Some guys are actually playing in college. I'll just follow them every 30 seconds. I don't even stop it. The cameras here. I know that. I forgot it. You're around that sun school. I'm going to start with 10. Like, that's 20, maybe. The camera view that, 60 or 7. Got to be like around that way. No, yeah. All right. You have anything that's right. So, that's better than leaving it. Yes. Why? No, I got to accept the post.
No, it's colorful.
It's at 4, 5, 6.
Right there.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's like great. That's what friends are. Oh, all right. Like that. They share it all. Right.
Move there.
That's how. I made it tough for this time, like. Could you chance to want on this time?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's song. I got a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say trying. That one was, no, reason I'm looking. Okay, I have to shut it around. Oh, shit, for service, Tyler.
Yeah, it's all the.
Well,
It's only been in my head, it's, you know, don't mean that. Okay, that much to express. It's different. That's hard, that way.
That's not as long.
Next. Like river system. Rebound. Patrick, you got any actors? What? Got any actors? Oh, yeah. I just. Wow. What's a very cute? Voice. Pick up. Online has process.
Introduce that dogs.
Yes, Pretty great. That's also. See, I know $1 million. There's $1 million in there, securation was their center. That's why it's credit. Currency, right? I'm saying that he's. Let me get that fuck out. We had so much to share. It's just. I don't have to. I'm terrible. There's someone who gets a couple of this fast. Bridge Sunday. Pittsburgh, just one so
Questions. Oh, John.
So, question one, everybody ready? Ready, ready?
Here we go.
How much, everybody, Tony, you're all ready?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Patrick, go ahead.
Pitcher turned to the Red Sox in 1997, went 3-0 in the 2004 playoffs, winning all 3 games. After the deciding series. I heard it over here somewhere. Come on. Someone said it. And it wasn't paper. What?
1997.
Not sure. Derek Lowe.
And these are everybody, every answer is somebody wanted chairs or
Yep, guys. If you go in order, Derek Lowe's birthday is June 1st.
Wow. Wow.
Okay,
Stop that.
Eric Lowe, June 1st.
Next one, recognizing Yorker's pitching performances, this left-handed reliever. Ranked second in career appearances, holds the lowest career World Series ERA among relievers. He is known locally for his work in sports titan.
I stand.
He's going.
That's that.
All right, question 3, the first pick in the 95 MLB draft, spent a majority of his career with the Angels.
Darren Erstad.
Yep, Darren Erstad.
Coach for Nebraska.
And probably.
All right, question 4, 7-time All-Star, 3-time Glove Award winner. First player to win a college baseball American, and then Rookie of the Year, MVP award, Gold Glove Award, and a World Series championship.
Buster Post.
Nope. Good guess. What?
What's it? I.
So what you think?
Ivan Rodriguez.
Nope.
Called this.
Nope. SABR, it was Thurman Munson.
Darn Molly, face. June 7th. I should have guessed that.
First baseball player to have a contract for a reported $1 million per year, although it was later revealed to be paid out over 30 years and not getting more than $1 million in a season. Won the 77-78. Nope. Nope. Nope.
Bobby Bonilla.
Nope. No, he saved Park guy.
Bad thing. We got.
Yeah.
This is making open contract. No, it said the contract.
Yeah, but it's almost like trying.
Yeah.
Last year. Ryan's got here.
Right, yeah, Ryan's actually. No. Next one, 1955 National League. Gold Glove center fielder, and then known as a manager.
Bill Burr.
Yep. Bill Doran.
What are you talking about?
Oh.
Are you in the whole?
First pitcher to win Rookie of the Year, Cy Young Award, and MVP in their career.
Don Newton.
John Newcomb.
That's our army field.
I remember that's all I grew up in Philly. Philly's Dodgers doubleheader. He pitched the first game, 9 innings, and started the second game. And pitched 5 or 6 innings in the second game.
You know what, Lou? He was good.
Lefty never had a losing season in the majors, as the career record for postseason wins were 19.
Johnny Best.
And credit.
Should have got. I just had a shot.
Luigi was involved in the first ever high five.
Oh, this is it.
Yeah, I'll give you some easier ones, some serious ones. Hey there. Lifetime batting average of 328 is the highest among living, not current ball players. Third baseman not known for his power, but the first player to hit a home run was 3,000 pitches. Wade Boggs. Get the ball. That's freakish right-hander, won 62 games, back-to-back Cy Young Award. His first 4 seasons, played out when
10 months ago.
yeah, 10 months ago.
10 months ago.
10 months ago, with Giants.
10 months ago. Exactly.
So you did have one.
Did.
Oh, that was a big man.
Yeah.
Freak.
At the time, many thought the Cubs came away with the highest trading this player for Imbruglia. However, history looks back on this much differently.
Right.
Okay.
June 18th. Okay.
Knuckleballer's a two-time American League win center, but better remembered more for his involvement in the Black Sox scandal.
Psychotic.
Exactly.
Don't bear telling you to watch fish. He says, don't bear telling you to watch fish.
So his second baseman was a four-time All-Star, two-time Gold Glove Award winner, and a member of 30-30 Club of Texas Rangers.
Yeah,
Ian Kinsler.
Ian Kinsler. Really
16.
All right, the shortstop got the first of his 3,565 career hits on May 30th, 1995. Derek Jeter. Okay. Left fielder, first baseman is known as Mr. Marlin.
Jeff Conine.
Conine.
Oh, good.
Son believes that pretty good.
This should be an easy one.
Alabama.
Jordan. Yep. It's Jordan Alvarez.
Great money fire, sure. No, for sure.
Outstanding center fielder, won 8 Gold Gloves in a 9-year stretch from 97 to 05. Also had nearly 400 career home runs, 396.
Andrew Jones.
Not Andrew Jones.
Jim Edmonds.
Jim Edmonds, yeah.
Last game in that.
Career 303 hitter, collected the most hits, doubles, and sacrifice flies of any player in the 90s.
Yeah. Tony Gwynn.
Not Tony Gwynn.
No, it's.
Not Vigio. This one was surprising. Mark Grace.
He said you're a Cubs fan, you should know, and I was like, my neighbor, he's like, no, it's like Padres.
He couldn't make a team today. He swung for contact.
All right, the last one, although he signed a massive free agent deal as a shortstop, was the 2006 NL 16 runner-up, playing only 73 games, mainly as a center fielder. Straight journey. And the bonus here, in addition to having a June birthday, what else do all these players have in common?
They were part of this quiz.
They all have won a World Series.
Wow.
Ah, cool.
Did anybody get that?
Yes, I did, because I saw the answer before I got there. You're always being the projection guy.
So 21 possible answers.
Yeah, 21 possible.
I got all 21.
So we have Dusty there as a manager, he won as a player. We could got this.
81 it is.
Who got? You can see the people online. Anybody taking online?
Who got 3?
Three. Who got 4? Wow. Okay, who got 10?
Nobody.
Wow, really?
We got an honest crowd.
Who got 5? 5. Thank you, Mike. Who got 7? 9. Who got 9? Sean got 9, and your partner. Congratulations. I got 9. Hold on a second. But nobody got 10. Tiebreaker at 9. Patrick?
Oh, geez. I'm thinking of a number. 5.
I say, almost 3. I mean,
It's gotta have a tiebreaker question.
you have another prize.
How about the newest member? The newest, that'd be good. We got 9 people. 3 9s.
Who was alive in 79?
Two random out there.
Who was aware and said,
What,
Then he had no have to come back.
what role did Kenny Kelter play in baseball today?
Ah, we all know that.
What role did? Right. Ask that again, Tony.
I was there. You were there. Don't imagine.
Be batted against Allison.
Does anybody have a good question for the tiebreaker?
All right, so who was the home run leader in 2006 and how many? All of them. So they on out.
There you go. 2006 MLB leader in home runs.
And how many? Or 79 ball.
Come on.
In 2016, 2006, 2000.
No,
Just was, I got it.
no, but you're not one of the.
I have the question.
You got the question. All right, go ahead. Hurry up. Go ahead.
Who can write down the most players on the 79 history?
Oh, that's it.
Y'all want to do that real fast? Who can write down the most players on the 79
In
Astros
2 minutes.
in 1 minute?
Either that or I'm thinking of an offer.
1 minute.
You want me to?
Hold on, just a minute.
Give it to him, he's our guest.
Give it to him. All right. Hold on.
I don't think. Very much.
You know, it's good news. You have to come back. You have to come back next time.
If I do the trivia.
Do you agree to those terms? You will do the trivia contest, Kobe? I'll give you a prize.
Give me that, Wilson.
Yeah, I'll do it. Okay, Kobe will. Okay, so Kobe, John, and David Hilton. Yeah, one. Hilton Hotel one. Okay. Again, we do not have a meeting in July. We're all going to SABR 51. All of us?
Yeah.
All right. We do have a meeting August 28th. Hugo Mejica from the Astros in Action Foundation along. I've been with Paula Harris.
And
August 28th.
we are attempting August 12th.
Are we?
Tickets.
And the Hall of Fame game.
We are trying to get tickets for everybody as a group effort for August 12th to see our own Brownie get inducted to the Astros Hall of Fame. We are trying to get tickets. We'll find out very quickly.
Yeah, Bob Durrell and I are working.
August 12th. Keep that open. It'll be Brownie and Bill Doran going into the Astros Hall of Fame. Right? If you want to be part of that, you be part of that group. Okay.
It's a Saturday, we'll try to get a good discount for whatever.
Bill Doran is from Cincinnati.
Okay. So, if I don't see some of y'all before then, have a great rest of the summer because we're not seeing each other again until the 12th of August or August 28th. Nothing in July, no meeting in July, unless you meet us in Chicago, John, for SABR 51. All right? Have a great day. Go Astros. Take care, everybody.